Everyone thinks the most dangerous stage of entrepreneurship is failure, but it's not. The most dangerous stage is early success, because the habits that get you to your first $500,000 are often the exact habits that cap you there. So I want to talk today about why founders hit a leadership ceiling around 500K and the hidden crisis that hits after that. Somewhere around 400K to about 600K in revenue, I feel like a lot of founders hit something that nobody's really talking about, and it's this game that morphs. It shapeshifts at this point. And if you don't evolve quickly and prioritize evolving as a leader at this stage of the business, your business doesn't just stall out. It exposes you. I'm Liz. I'm a homeschooling mom. We just had our 6th baby, and I run Luminary Leadership Company, which is a business geared towards helping founders like you and helping entrepreneurs build businesses that give more than they take, so that the founders can step boldly into their big next, into their calling with their integrity intact. And this stage of business is where a lot of founders discover that building a business is one thing, but becoming the leader you need to be and that your business requires of you is something else entirely. So let's talk for a second about the first 500K and what that does. Let's talk about what happens as you're leading up to that 500K mark. That early stage of business, or often many years into business, not even just an early stage, right? That's where your efforts are rewarded. So you hustle, you improvise, you grind, you solve the problems yourself. There's a sales problem, you're handling it. There's a client issue, you're hopping on the phone, right? The system breaks, you're fixing it. At this stage, the formula feels really simple, right? So more effort equals more growth, because that's what gets you to that point. Again, give or take around that 500K mark. It works. You're the engine. The business grows because of you. Then the shape-shifting happens. Okay, so somewhere around that 400K to 600K mark, something shifts. Your effort stops being the main constraint any longer, right? You're pushing hard, but you're not getting the same growth you got at one point. So now the business is being constricted and constrained by something else. So we have to figure out what that is. Well, I've studied hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs and worked alongside them, got behind the curtain of their businesses, and it comes down to these things, right? Now it's less about your effort. It's about your leadership capacity, your thinking, how you view things, your decision making, right? Your emotional steadiness, your ability to let go of control. So the business no longer is fueled by your effort, which is a double-edged sword. It's a good thing, right? That's a good thing, because you only have so much effort to give. If you want to take this thing to the next level, you can't just double the amount of effort you put in getting it to this point. But it's a tough thing, because you've got to learn something outside of sheer will. And the business starts needing a different version of you, an up-leveled leader. Now the founder becomes the bottleneck. And we see this time and time again, but what do you do about it? Because when it's an effort problem, or even, a competency issue or a skill, you can go develop that. You can push harder, or you can learn the thing. Now with AI, you can really learn the thing. But what happens when you, as a human being with the brain that you have, is the bottleneck? So many entrepreneurs get tripped up because they're like, I don't know, is it like my past trauma from my childhood? Is it some kind of limiting belief that I've been holding on to that I'm not even aware of? It just becomes a lot more elusive. I can't just white knuckle my way through this anymore. So this is the moment where many, many entrepreneurs, they don't even recognize it's happening, and they think the business is stuck because, the market is shifting, or their strategy needs to be fine-tuned. Maybe the opportunity isn't big enough yet. We got to look for better opportunities. But really that constraint is way simpler. The founder just hasn't evolved to that next level yet. Now, this is a good thing because it's challenging you to grow. I talk all the time about this idea of your big next. Your big next is not just the next thing you're going to stumble and fall into as far as goals go. And it's not just 10xing and growing for the sake of growing. This is an actual evolution of you as you step into what God's calling you into next as a business owner, right? So this is the opportunity showing up because of who you've become, right? This is complexity appearing, but you being able to handle it. This is getting more people involved. You can't be a one-man show anymore. Even if you have a team, right? Most people aren't getting to that $500,000 mark as a solopreneur, but even if you have a team, it's actually helping them up level and step into leadership roles. The founder who is still operating with the mindset that built the first few 100,000 is going to get stuck there. And that mindset was built for the scrappiness required to get a business off the ground and the speed that it requires and the control that you kind of have to have in those early stages and the personal effort, but scaling in congruence with who you're called to be and the values you hold dear, that requires a whole different level of leadership. Better systems, different kinds of systems, delegation, right? A level of clarity. And just a leadership maturity that only comes with, first and foremost, the acknowledgement that this is true. There is this invisible leadership ceiling that I've seen so many times before, and I've personally experienced it, and it sucks, but we're going to talk about it because the good news is you can break through it. Every business eventually hits this moment. If it has the opportunity to grow enough, if you stay in the game long enough, if you make wise decisions, you'll get the opportunity to inherit this problem like the rest of us. The business can only grow as much as the leader is willing to grow. And I'm not talking about your effort. I'm not talking about how many hours you're willing to put in. I'm talking about that leadership maturity. How do you handle pressure? How do you make decisions, right? How efficiently do you make decisions? How do you delegate? How do you separate your ego from the outcomes, good or bad, right? Like, how do you navigate those really tough times? This is the part that I feel like hustle culture is not going to talk about because it doesn't make room for that leadership and stewardship. Hustle culture just by default is about effort, but effort stops scaling the business somewhere around this stage. Now it's different for every industry. I've seen it happen at 150K. It's not an exact number, but I've most commonly seen it at around this $500,000 mark. So I also want to talk from a different angle because I believe this is true. I think this stage of the business is very spiritually tricky, maybe even a little spiritually dangerous. And this is where we get a little deeper, okay? So just track with me. This stage really forces a question that most founders never really expect to face. And that question, which was very humbling for me the first time I asked myself, was, who am I when the business is no longer proving my worth? That first $500,000, you're proving your worth. The business works. When it works, it becomes a mirror, right? Every sale felt like a validation. Every win, felt like confirmation that you're, okay, I can do this. I'm on the right track. On the other side, every dip becomes personal, right? Every goal that you hit becomes like a screw you to the people who never believed in you. But it's not about that anymore. So I feel like slowly, the business becomes the place you go to confirm who you are. Why am I qualified to speak about this? Hey, hello, because I've struggled with it. Because I've walked so many of my clients through it. Because we're all human and this is what happens. We all have that ego. And that's when the entrepreneur just fuses themselves to the business. Definitely not by design, not structurally necessarily, right? You can differentiate yourself from the business in your day-to-day life or in your calendar. But the business is the place where effort produces that identity feedback. How do we break through this? Well, the founders who can move past this stage realize this really key thing. The business cannot be the place where you go to discover your worth. Businesses fluctuate. Markets fluctuate, right? The economy fluctuates. Revenue fluctuates. Momentum fluctuates. Your friggin' health fluctuates. And then you have, God forbid, a season where you can't be working. If identity fluctuates with the numbers, leadership really gets destabilized. For me, what has anchored me through this and gotten me past this mistake that I made for so many years is my faith. Because then my identity just it moves outside of the KPIs and the scoreboard. And when that happens, that's where I experienced a really powerful shift and a level of clarity that's, I don't know, it was almost like I was seeing in HD for the first time as a business owner. I was able to make better decisions without this stress. I was sleeping at night. I can't tell you how many years I thought it was normal that from basically 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. every night, I was stressing about decisions and things in the business and things related to the business, usually tied up in my identity and my worth based on what those outcomes would mean about me. And I had to learn to release from that. And it wasn't about me caring less about the business. It was the business is no longer carrying the weight of who I am defining me. So remember that first $500,000, give or take, rewards effort. That next $500,000, it exposes leadership, good or bad. And that exposure offers an opportunity. So what happens, like you have been exposed, right? You've realized, oh my gosh, I'm stuck here and I know why now. There's an opportunity on the table. It's not an exposure of let's all point and laugh because you're a failure. Nope, not even close. You're human and now you have a level of awareness to do it differently. So reflect. If your business disappeared tomorrow, would you still know who you are? Because the answer to that question tells you a lot about how you're currently leading. Take a pause. Think through that question and identify how can I get to a place where I'm emotionally detaching from those outcomes and not allowing my value as a person to be woven into those outcomes. I get it. This is a new mental model for a lot of us, that 500K leadership ceiling, but effort stops scaling the business at some point. And leadership maturity is going to start scaling the business. It's going to be that tipping point for you. If you want to know how to do this and you really want to identify what specifically is tripping you up, because you might be different than me, right? We have different ways we lead and ways we think. So how do we develop our emotional maturity? Well, first, it really is awareness. That's such a key foundational piece of leadership. If you haven't yet, go take my leadership style assessment. It's totally free and it's going to give you literally the blueprint that you need to break through. You can go check it out in the description below, click the link, go take the assessment, and then come back and drop your style below. I want to know, what are most of us? I'm a trailblazer. I'm curious what you are. Go take the assessment.